Okay, as more people join, I will get going. So, hello everybody, and welcome to Mastering More4apps Master Data in the Finance Module. I am Stephanie, and I will be moderating today's webinar. Since this is a quick webinar and Andrew has a lot to go over, I'm just going to go over a few things as fast as possible before handing it over to him. So, everyone will receive today's recording by the end of the week. And then after Andrew presents, we'll begin our Q&A portion. During the session, feel free to put your questions in the Q&A box down below or in the chat, and we will only answer them during the Q&A part just to allow everybody to hear the whole presentation and to hop off at the end if needed. And this is our third session of the day for End User Education Day. Andrew, if you want to hit the next slide, please. It's our third session of the day, so there's still time to join other ones, especially the one after this, even if you aren't into cloud, it is EBS. If you can't make them anyway, we will still send the recordings from all the sessions, but it's always best to join them live, especially if you have any questions, because we have the experts right there for you. But before handing it over to Andrew to get started, also with us today is Dennis Elson-Peter, our US Sales Manager, who would just like to say a few words. Dennis?
Thanks, Stephanie, and welcome, everyone. Great to have you guys here. As Stephanie mentioned, my name's Dennis Elson-Peter. I've been with More4apps for nearly 10 years now, and prior to that, I was actually a More4apps customer. So yes, I've lived the life that many of you guys live on a day-to-day basis, just dealing with the challenges of data entry. As More4apps enters into their 25th year of helping Oracle users, we're extremely excited to be hosting this End User Education Day. You know, we've always leveraged our expertise to focus on solving data problems for business teams that are working in Oracle e-business suite or cloud, Oracle's Fusion Cloud ERP. It's always been our mission and will continue to be our mission to remove the friction and the data complexities within your ERP. As we focus on today's session, we're going to educate you guys on new functionality that's been added to our finance module. You know, we strive as a company to deliver the most user-friendly, effective, and efficient products in the market, and we strongly believe that these additions do just that. So we'll start off by focusing on this new great feature of sheet creation. It's actually been added to all of our cloud ERP products, but it's been extremely valuable for folks in the supplier and customer setup area. In addition, we'll go through supplier bank accounts, supplier payment details, and fixed asset functionality, all of which have recently been added to the finance module as well. So yes, as Stephanie mentioned, there's a lot to get through. So let me waste no more time in throwing it over to the guy that is going to take us through it all. Welcome, Andrew Gooch. Over to you. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thanks, Dennis. Hi, everyone. Hopefully everyone can hear me all right. Yeah, I'm Andrew. I'm part of the functional support team here, and previously I was a developer when we had our EBS tools being built. So I've got a fairly good base of knowledge for you guys today. So as Dennis said, we're going to focus on these areas, mostly on the new features, and hopefully give you some tricks and tips, usability tricks as well, and the QA session at the end. So let's try and leave the questions till the end. If there's something really urgent, Dennis, I'm sure, or Stephanie will interrupt me, but we'll assume that we'll just do that at the end. But do put them in the chat as we go along. So we're going to start with the suppliers, and I've just got to open up my Excel. So hopefully the Excel spreadsheet is visible to you. And you can see here that I've got an empty sheet, but I've got the More4apps ERP Cloud Toolbox installed, so I can see the controls there up in my ribbon tab. Actually, I might just turn the video off just in case it has any issues with the broadband. Yeah, so we're going to start with suppliers, and obviously for those of you who I've already logged in here, by the way, so we won't see the login, but as with any of our integrators, we select the module, and everything today will be finance, and then we will look at Later on, we'll look at these ones, but we're going to start with suppliers. And I'll just start with the empty supplier sheet first, but these are the two new areas that we want to sort of make sure you're aware of. So I'll just create a new sheet for suppliers. And those of you who haven't seen the product recently, this is a new dialog that's coming up now. You don't have to do anything. You can click on create and it's going to generate you a new sheet. But if you find that there are too many columns in your worksheet, and obviously with suppliers and customers is another one, where if I scroll down, there is a lot here. I mean, it's broken into sections, contacts, addresses, and so on. There's a lot to overwhelm you with the number of columns. If you know that you're not going to be using a column, we're now giving you the option to just strip them out. So for example, I'm not going to create any, well, I'm not doing any creations today, but I wouldn't be creating any that had that relationship. And I might, for example, not be dealing with the flex field. I might not be doing attachments, all of that stuff. So I can remove those columns before I start. And I'll just take out something really obvious right at the beginning. So alternate name. And then when I create a sheet, those columns that didn't have a tick aren't there anymore. So I would have seen alternate name somewhere up here prior. So that's really useful to get you going with a cut down worksheet right at the beginning. It doesn't stop there. So we've always got flexibility in our product to change the layout. So if there's something here that I'm not using, maybe that. We can always delete them after the fact and remove the reorder them as you would expect to. But that extra layer just allows you to sort of do some things up front without having to navigate. I just want to do a couple of tips and tricks. So when you start off with the sheet, when you've got lots of sections, you can see there's a lot of real estate allocated to feedback. So I recommend just as much as possible, just reducing the width of those. And this is where it's really useful to, especially on that form, if you're not using a section, I don't think you should have it in the sheet at all. And that would get rid of not only the status column, but the columns over to the right there. And you'll end up with more screen real estate associated with the data collection and less with the feedback. And another thing I recommend, these column headings are unique because of the way the tool works. So supplier upload action, and later over there, you'll have site upload action and all that. But we don't need to see the uniqueness of them. And I do recommend maybe doing little tricks like this. So it's really just the action or the upload action part of that label that we need to see. So, and same with messages. So you can do things like that, just to give yourself a little bit more space to work in. And when you've finished with all of that process, you'll end up with something like this. So this is a sheet where I've, got a bit of data in there. Sorry, a few sections in there for me to fill with data, but I don't have everything, and it's much more the spreadsheet section is set up for data collection than it is for feedback. Going back through the tabs, before we do the new functionality, I just wanted to identify a couple of things that people aren't always clear on. So obviously when we're downloading data for updates, we can use the form and we can select criteria, filters there. So I could do, filtered based on, I don't know, the creation dates or something like that. But we also have the download and sheet mechanism. And I just wanted to highlight what these arrows mean here. So they are telling me that those columns can be used as filters, just as if they were in that download form. So I could put in a supplier name, or I could also put in something like this with a wildcard, right? So I can download based on that sort of unexplicit value. So that's, and obviously you can combine other columns in your filter as well. So I just wanted to make sure that people are aware of that. So you don't have to necessarily know exactly what you're looking for. These ones here have all got that prefix, and you can use it. The wildcard, it's the same as an oracle, so it can go at the beginning, in the middle, wherever. Right. So let's just get on now and start talking about these new features. So we're going to go and look at both of these. We're going to start up with the bank account information. So this has been recently added, and we'll just create a sheet for that. Again, we can choose our columns. I'm not going to do the actual process here because I've already got a sheet ready, but just scroll down fairly slowly so you can see what's supported. We've got the bank account itself, the ownership, the assignment, and you can also add that intermediary bank account information if you want. Again, I could select the columns as I go and create that sheet, but I do have one already ready to go. And if I scroll across, you can see that I've got the definition of the account, the ownership, and the assignments. And I've left the intermediary stuff out. It's not as widely used. So just a word on this. The rest of the supplier area is got a hierarchy where the supplier is the main record. So underneath the supplier, you have the sites and the addresses and so on. With the bank account integrator, the bank account is the main record because that allows us to support Oracle's multi-ownership method with bank accounts. So you can have a bank account owned by more than one supplier if that's how your business operates. It's not that common, but it is supported by Oracle, so it's supported by our tool. So in that sense, we've changed the way that this integrator works, and the bank account sits off, and then the suppliers sit underneath it. So that's a little bit different. So what I've got here is some bank account information. I've just entered that in either through the spreadsheet or through the edit form. We've always got those edit forms. I'll just quickly open one up so people are able to recognize what I'm talking about there. I haven't cached this, so it'll take a second or two. So I can create my bank account based on all those feedback validation lists that I would expect. And at the same time, it's useful to create the ownership because otherwise the bank account is a bit orphaned. And you can create your assignments at the same time. You can assign bank accounts at supplier, address, and site level. So here you can see I've already got some information in here for a supplier with one address that's got 2 sites on it. And then over here, this is a more typical data scenario where I've got one supplier site for each account. So I'll just go up and do the load here. I just wanted to show you how easy it is to do everything at once. And then I'll show you how you can change things after the event. So I haven't cached all of this yet, so it'll take a little bit longer than subsequent loads will take, but shouldn't be too long. So you can see that validations return, those blue colors tell me that all the fields passed the test. So if I click on OK now, I've got new accounts. And if I was to download those, well, let's do it by the account number. This is the way Excel does it. You can see the numbers look a bit weird in the spreadsheet, but so you can download that. I'll just do one of them actually. So you can download that to see. Well, in that case, I don't have any assignments, but you can always use the download to get a clear picture of what's happening in the Oracle system. Now that one there is actually an interesting example because I'll just clear those other filters. We've created the account, but we haven't assigned it, and that's almost typical scenario where okay, we might have assigned it to one part of the supplier setup, but then we're going to create new sites, new addresses, and then those accounts need to be assigned to those new data elements that we've added. And that's really easy to do after the event. I can say I'm going to create an assignment. Maybe I'll use the edit form actually. The edit form has some neat functionality. So for this lifestyle goods supplier, I'll do an assignment at address level. And, but I'm not necessarily going to know what those addresses are. Well, the tool is really handy because it'll pull up a list of all the addresses that exist for that supplier. So I can go and put in Queens. Maybe I'll make it a primary account. I could give it a date range if I like, and just put it in like that way. And maybe I'm going to do more than one. So I'll do it again. We saw those other ones. I'll just put it in by hand. Brooklyn was another one. And I can, I'll just scroll over here. I can do that creation too. And you can update those accounts as well. I could go in there and change, some of the details. But we haven't got that much time, so I'm going to get on to the next area of the supplier model that has been added to support, and that is payment details. Again, I'll bring up a new sheet as if I was going to create one, but I do have some data ready. So I won't create the sheet, but again, we'll just sort of highlight what is in the support model. So there's attributes, we do payment methods, and you can also do your bank assignments in this sheet too. I prefer to do it when I'm setting up the bank account, but you can do it on either side. They work in the same way. So I've got a sheet already set up, and I've got some suppliers that I'm going to work with. Now, payment details, I don't know if you saw those columns. They can be assigned either at the supplier level or at the site level or the address level. So if I was to say download, well, we'll do them all, but we're gonna see quite a lot of data here. Well, I don't suppose I need to do that. If I download the existing payment level or at all levels, and if I do it at all level, it's actually quite confusing because you've got a lot of information where you can store 3 different values for a given site. You could store it at the address level, the site level, or at the supplier header level. And if you see on the download when that's complete, just have to wait for that. Did I press it? Yeah. Oh, there's an error. I've got a problem with my connection. That's the first time that's happened to me today. Hopefully that won't happen the next time. I think I might have, it might be a connection error. But it's a bit better this time. It's executing their request. Yeah, so I think I just had a blip on my broadband there. So if I just put a gap in here between the supplier, what about it? You can see that I can set up my payment details at supplier level, so I don't have any address or site definition details. That's an address, and these are sites. So that's actually a lot to deal with. Most organizations will be storing their information how they're using it at just one. So I recommend doing a download based on what your organization is typically using. So I'm just going to do it at address level, just to show that you don't need to have all that gunk in the sheet. So those particular suppliers will come down and I won't see so much. Did I do all again? I may, sorry, I think I might have, oh no, sorry, I'm just over analyzing. So there's that Hollywood services, and you can see 4 addresses, and those are actually the same ones that we saw for lifestyle goods earlier. And then I can go ahead and create my payment details at address level. So I just open up the data forms to show you little trick there. So when you create a supplier or a site or an address, these payment detail records are actually created. They won't be full of any information until you put them in. So, but what that means is that there's no create. We're updating records. They just happen to be empty. So I would select that option. I might, select some values, put them in that way. The best way is obviously to just cut and paste from, existing downloaded payment details. I'll just do it like that so that we can get ahead. Paste it unformatted. And I just, while I'm here, also just show you that the payment methods supported at the same time. So I'll use the data form. You can do this without the data form. Best way, really. But I just wanted to show you that you are creating payment methods when you do it. Whereas, what we're seeing before is just an update to an existing record. And when we're ready, we can just do the load. So I'll just upload those. It's going to update for payment delivery details, and it'll add one payment method. And I could have done the bank account assignment at the same time if I wanted to, but in this case I didn't. And there we go. So if I was to download Hollywood services, I noticed I spelt it incorrectly there. Now I could do the same download for all of them. I should see my new values in the sheet. There we go. So it's really easy, and you can separate. The real point that I want to make is you can separate addresses from sites, and that way you don't get confused. So we're going to move now to fixed assets. I'll just click on there. But really, we're staying in the same spreadsheet. I need to log out. Our tools, they support the Oracle role security. And so I need to log on as a user that has access to the fixed asset services. So I'm going to use one of my co-workers. If I get her password right. And she has access to the two books that way. I will do my asset work on. So I've already created some assets, and I just wanted to show you what they were before we get started. So we have a bunch in the Chinese book and a bunch in the US book. And we're going to look at the new integrators that have been added, the adjustments and the the transfers. And I'll just quickly show you what's supported within those. So I'll just bring up the adjustments selection form. But again, I've already got a sheet created so we can get on with things. So there's a lot of information that you can update. Essentially, adjusting is updating the various levels. You can select the columns like we expect. And you get a sheet like this. I've got it fairly cut down. And I recommend doing a download. I've got my US assets. That's why they say NY, because they're meant to be in New York. And I'll use a sheet download. Now, because I've just logged in as way, most of my caching is dropped, unfortunately. So I'll just have to do a little bit of a slower download here. Subsequently, it'll be quicker. There's also quite a lot of data elements there. I think I've got about 25, 30 there. And we just wait for that to come in. And that's going to populate the sheet with the pre-existing, like the current status quo for all of those assets. And we'll just do some typical changes at the detail level or at the asset level, the header level. So just bear with me while that comes in. This is just a query running against Oracle, basically. I did question whether I should have downloaded fewer. So I won't clear the download criteria for now, just in case I need another download. But so here I've got the current tag numbers, for example, the ownership type, and then various details that I might want to update. So you can update at both levels. You could put in an update here, change the tag number, maybe the serial number. And one of the things we do recommend is using the defaults row to populate, auto-populate. So let's say I'm going to put in, those, whatever number that is. I want to make them all least. Rather than having to put that into every row, I can just delete the existing value and let that new value drop in with the defaults. And likewise, I don't have a default here, so I'll do this one by hand. I'll just bring value down, and we can change, the cost according to what our new asset information is. There are some limitations. Oracle occasionally rejects an update if you're adjusting more than one value at a time. I haven't actually taken the time to identify which can be done together and which can't. But that's an Oracle limitation. I'll change the prorate conversion for that one. That's probably enough changes. And then we can just do all our update at both levels at the same time. Again, do a selection or the whole sheet. We've only got that many to update, so I'll just do the selection. Wait for it to come in. You'll get feedback, and the blue colors will tell us what's right and what's wrong in terms of the syntax of what I've put in the sheet. That, if something comes back red, that'll be telling me something more serious is wrong with it. Yeah, there was a real problem there. What's it saying? Oh, I didn't actually do that one there. I forgot to change. So it's clever enough to tell me that there wasn't actually an adjustment there. I'll just do download of those ones, so in case the performance on my instance is a problem, I'll just download. We should see the new values. I really recommend downloading things after changes because it's much quicker than double checking within the forms, and you can really get a picture of what's happened. So there we can see various changes that I've made. So I've adjusted a whole lot of different things at the same time, and I could either keep that download criterion or remove it like I did. So we'll move to transfers. We'll look at the other type of asset that I created. These are all in Beijing. They're Chinese assets. I question whether I should maybe not download so many, but I will download them all just in case we want to come back to this sheet. So I'll download them into the transfer sheet, and that's going to return definition of the asset. It's going to tell me all its current status quos in terms of its location and where it's assigned. So we'll just download those, and then we'll do a couple of transfers, show you how easy it is to do. We don't have a very highly performance tuned version of Oracle because we don't pay too much money for this test instance. So I do apologize. You won't see delays when you're using it. So I'm going to get in those gray columns a whole lot of information that will give me a sense of where things are so I can make the appropriate changes. I might clear the downloaded data this time to let us see a bit more. So I can see what the current status is. And we'll do a few transfers. When you do a transfer, you do need to tell it the transfer date and maybe what I'm doing. I'll put in today. Well, actually, because of my open book, I'll do it for last month. And then I can go in and create my transfer. Let's transfer 2 units. I won't use the form just to save time. We'll just put in, say, this one here can go to a particular employee, and they're in Shanghai rather than Beijing. And maybe I'll just transfer those 2. Actually, because I'm going to split it, I'll insert a, whoops. I'll insert a row so I can do a transfer of a second amount to just a different location. So you don't have to put in all the details. You can limit it to what you need. And maybe I'll do some other transfers. I've got 10 units for each. So I'll just transfer those, and we'll see how easy it is to do a split transfer and then partial transfer. And you can obviously do a full transfer too. I've got a default for the comment, and I've also, sorry, for the action, and I've also got it doing a pretty blanket comment and date for each so that I don't have to enter that by hand. And it's really, really quite a quick and simple process. What's nice about it as compared to something like the ADFDI solution is that if I want to repopulate the sheet, I can at any time, right? So I don't have to do anything else. So when this is finished, I'll see a result. Presumably that will be successful. And when that's done, I can just use the same sheet to bring out and see what my new asset. I'll just delete this stuff so we don't have any distractions. If I download those assets again, I can do it straight in the same sheet, never have to go anywhere else, don't have to create any new templates, and then I should see my new details. So they'll all probably have 2 records now because I've done partial transfers. So you can see that there's 2 for that one, 3 for that one, sorry, yeah, because I only partially transferred to those 2, and then each of those has been split just the one time into 2. So it's that easy to do transfers. That's all I've really got to show you in terms of new functionality. We did want to touch on customers. There isn't any new features added to customers, but those template generation options are really useful. And I just wanted to highlight another one. If I go to templates, you can also, when you're using the create sheet, you can take away columns, but you might find that, oh, this sheet doesn't actually have a column that I meant to put in it. Let's imagine I'd taken out party registry. Well, that's not a good example. I'll take out that party organization name. Yeah, oh, actually, I needed that, but what was it called? If I do the edit sheet, I can add that back in. It'll take a look at the sheet that I'm using and then return what's in and what's missing from the sheet. So you can see that that tick's gone away. So if I've taken something away and I realize I did need it, I can use this to create a sheet that restores any columns that I accidentally took away. So somewhere over there, I'll see party organization. So that's another piece of new functionality that can be quite useful. But we are running short of time, so I'm going to pass it back now well, not pass it back. I'm going to return to the PowerPoint. And I just wanted to quickly touch on the fact that we've looked at finance module today. Obviously, we support more than one area, and anything that anybody that's using our product and say finance may find that they find some of our other areas useful too. And for all of these, we have these extra features that make it a better user experience over something like FBDI and ADFDI. But with that, I'll close the training section of it, and we will talk questions. And I think Dennis will be able to answer some of them. I'll be able to answer some of them. And if there's anything we can't answer, we'll take them away and send them back to you as homework.
Sounds good. Yeah. So we will do Q&A for the next like 10, 15 minutes. I do actually have quite a few questions already. If you initially ask the question and have any further clarifying questions, you can raise your hand and I can unmute you if you would like to just follow up. It might be easier than retyping it, but if you don't want to, not a big deal. Okay, so we have quite a few. So let's see. I want to start from the top. So can we do accelerated depreciation through More4apps?
Oh, I'm not an assets expert. I'm afraid I can't go into that level of detail. Stephanie, can you take a note of that question? That we
Yeah.
might have to return. That's really deeply functional questions after the session.
Okay, I wrote that down, Mark. So we'll make sure
Sorry
to get
about
back to you
that.
on that one. Can we update action for payable invoices / purchase orders too?
You can definitely do updates. Some of the areas are limited by what Oracle will allow you to update. I know we can do updates at purchase order level. I'm not sure about the invoice stuff. What our products do is they call Oracle Public Web Service, and that has basically a parameterized API call where the parameters line up with our columns, and then Oracle decides whether or not that's an allowable update. I'm not too sure what things are allowed to be updated and what aren't. We do have some documentation in each of our integrators that does cover that. You can definitely update data in all the data areas, but it might be difficult to answer what columns can or can't be updated here. But we can direct you to the documentation for what we call limitations in the updates, which are normally dictated by Oracle.
Can we update payment terms at the supplier site level?
You absolutely can. That's something I demonstrate all the time. And we actually do have a resource which allows you to sort of get a feel for the product where we step through an update scenario, and that is the exact update scenario. So maybe Stephanie, our self-guided stuff that we have online for people, if you could send the people the link to that. If you click on the maintain data link on that, when you get that link, you'll see exactly that scenario being addressed.
Oh, good. Okay. Could we create AP invoices?
Absolutely can. Yeah, that's with a different integrator. We looked at suppliers and fixed assets. But if I went back, I'm not sure if I can go back to the tool. I'll just bring up the templates while we're here, perhaps. So we have payables invoices, receivables invoices. There's a lot covered under each of these areas. Hopefully that answers
Another question for you. Well, I guess it kind of relates to, can you create payment receipts?
Receipts. I'm not too sure actually. I think possibly. Let's bring that up again. You can do holds. I'm not sure. I know that we're working on that in receivables right now. There's an expected release date in December for receivables. We might have to take that question away. It could actually be something that's part of the invoicing template. I don't want to misspeak.
That's good. I wrote that down. Do we need to keep all mandatory columns in the template from different subject to create slash update data?
No, so you'll need certain columns. Each section of data has a gray column where we saw the green come back for a load or a red for an error. So there'll be one column for each section for that. And within each section, there'll be something like an action. We saw the where you put update or create and a message column. And then normally there'll be something that defines what that is. So it might be the supplier name or the supplier number or the site name. But normally the rest of those columns you're free to remove. There's occasionally a column that's required, but mostly, other than the identifying column in each section, you can take them away. And you can also remove them over to the side. So, for example, if you're copying in from a source document where you've got all your invoice information and you don't need all of those gray columns to be on the left, you can shift them over to the right and then paste in without having to do any reformatting. It doesn't really matter where the columns are as long as they're in the sheet.
Okay, great. Can we do invoice distribution updates via More4apps?
I think you can. Yep, that's familiar to me. I haven't done it recently. I don't know if I want to create a sheet because it could take a while, but distributions and lines. Yep, I think that's all there. I'll let that in the background. Like, oh, hang on, it's come up already. So if I just lines, distributions, there you go, and the tax as well. So it's all supported.
Okay, good. Is it possible to populate the data from other sources, like from Oracle EBS? Basically, migrating master data from EBS to cloud.
Yes, you can. We don't have a built-in download from EBS into the cloud sheets. There has been talk about that, whether that gets built or whether we just create a template that maps to both. You just need to get your information in from your external source. So you could do it. We've got EBS tools, for example. So you could download into one of our EBS tools and then transfer it across. Basically, it's Excel. So you can copy and paste from any source document, be it an Excel spreadsheet or a CSV file or a report or even an email. So as long as you can paste that data into our sheet, it doesn't really matter where it comes from.
Okay, great. How are different sections linked? And how do you link them?
Well, there's no linking.
As
I think this
user?
question comes from people who are used to using FBDI. So with that situation, you've got different tabs and you've got to click between them. You might have your header and then behind that a line. So you've got to have the header identified on the line record. You don't need to do that with our tools because it's all done with layout. So if I have a header row, and then I might have 5 lines for that header, that they just sit next to each other before the next header, it's all automatically linked. So I don't need to repopulate, that supplier header next to the address or anything like that. There's no need to coordinate the data. It's just about where you lay them out. And when you download them from Oracle, that is already taken care of, right? If you use our download features.
Okay, great. Are there any other future developments or features that are planned?
Well, I do. I was just reading an
That
email this morning. I know that AR receipts is in the works, and I know that we currently do on account credit, and we're doing credit memos. Some of the things have been delayed because there's been problems with the Oracle support for the web services. We would love to have a lot more out, but occasionally we just have to hold because the web service has a bug. But I know that those two things which have been held up are now very close to completion. So before the end of the year, we expect those two to be available.
great. Okay, cool. We have one more question. Does anyone else have any other questions before we get to this one? Because this kind of will go back to what Dennis will talk about at the end, but it's just more about extra training for More4apps. What are the resources, any training and all that sort of stuff. But I think that's it. And I think, oh, someone raised their hand. Oh, it's Mark. Okay, Mark, I will let you talk real quick. Okay, Mark, whenever you're ready. Mark, are you there? Hmm. Okay, he typed it. Okay. What wizard would we use for invoice distribution line updates since Mark is EBS?
Well, that would be the AP invoice wizard on the EBS side of things.
Mhm.
That's a different tool. It works in exactly the same way though. So you would use, but you notice the difference between our cloud and our EBS tools. That's a blue template. But AP invoice, if we're talking about AP, we obviously also have the AR invoice wizard. Most likely you're talking about AP, I'd say.
I have another question too. Can we create or update setups data, like AP holds, COA structures, payment terms, etc.?
Well, we can definitely do holds against the invoices, and you can, I mean, payment terms, etc., would probably be on the supplier. That's normally recorded at the site level. So you can do all that. It just depends where that stuff is stored. You can't do everything. We don't, we don't have like a foundations tool where you would set up your list of values or anything like that. It's more function of financial functional data. So you'll be creating master data or transactional data.
Yeah, Mark, give me 1 second. I'm gonna try to let you talk real quick. 'Cause there are two of you, so
Can you hear?
okay, go ahead.
I can hear
Yes.
a voice, yeah.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry. My settings get messed up with Zoom. We
It
go from
happens.
Teams to Zoom and everything gets messed up. So anyway, so we've been using More4apps for quite a few years, and we were told that invoice distribution lines, mass updates to invoice distribution lines were not able to be done. New invoices, yes. Existing distribution lines, no. So I just want to clarify the answer that was said in here.
Yeah, well, I don't want to say the wrong thing. My belief was that you could, and I know that Brad Sayer, one of our functional experts, has been looking at that over probably the medium term, and I thought that he had done it. I mean, maybe Dennis knows the answer to it. With specifically to the distributions on the invoicing, my gut would have been yes, but I mean, if you've been told otherwise, I don't want to say that
Has
you've been
anyone
told
on the
wrong.
call used it? Because it's a big necessity here at my company, and we haven't been successful. Well, we haven't used it because we were told we can't, but
And Mark, to be clear, you're talking, this is e-business suite, right?
e-business suite, invoice, AP invoice distribution line updates.
Okay, let's take that back, team, and get a solid answer, and we can share that with everybody.
That'd be
but
great.
especially you, Mark.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. Do you have any other questions, Mark, or was that it?
That's it.
Okay, great. All
Thank you.
right. Yeah, no problem. Okay. So I think that is it then. I think anyone else have any last minute questions, but I think we're good, and I think we're running out of time. So we'll wrap it out. Before I pass it off to Dennis and Andrew for some final words, I just want to say thank you again, and that you'll receive the recording. So just keep an eye out for that. But Dennis, if you want to talk about the community real quick, go ahead.
Yeah, I think this does address the question that was regarding support and training materials and resources. I think it's been about 6 months ago now. We've released the community. We're quite proud of it, and we've heard really good feedback from our customers. And so we encourage everybody, all users of More4apps products to sign up for it. There's a lot of information out there, training videos, resources, brochures, white papers. Thing that people really talk about is a discussion forum. You guys are asking a lot of great questions right now. You could put them out on the community, and one of our experts will answer them, or sometimes users answer them because they're, similar to what Mark was saying, like they're doing it. And so we encourage you guys to use this. It's for the customers. It was built because of requests from customers to have some type of community within all the products that we offer. And the only other thing I'd like to add is just want to thank everybody for attending this conference or this session and any of the other sessions that you plan to attend or have attended today. More4apps, has always been focused on the customer. When I was a customer, they were focused on myself, And ever since I've been here, it's always been about the customer. I love that about the company. And so we appreciate you guys all. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, and I'll just say a thank you as well before we go. It's great to have such a good audience. And I think my email address was at the beginning of the slide, but yeah, if you have any questions that you want to ask me directly, I'm andrew.gooch@more4apps.com. And yeah, we'll see you next session.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a great day.